After my younger brother started high school and his grades weren't good, my mother went around asking people if there was any smart drug that could help him improve his performance. For a while, she attracted many scammers she didn't even believe herself. I advised her to think carefully and not let my brother harm his health by taking such drugs. The scammers quoted high prices, and gradually she stopped mentioning buying the medicine. But later, my younger brother didn't study hard and didn't even get into a vocational college. After graduating and starting work, he was often late and left early, so he was quickly fired. At the dinner table, my mother sighed and complained to me, "If only we hadn't listened to your sister back then and given you the smart pills." My brother took it to heart. When I had pneumonia and my fever spiked to 42 degrees, he refused to give me medicine or take me to the hospital. In the end, I died from the lack of timely treatment. When I opened my eyes and started over, I was at the same dinner table. The younger brother pulled out a 47-point test paper for our parents' signature, and I smiled as I asked, "Mom, didn't you say last time that you found a medicine that could make people smarter?" Out of the corner of my brother's eyes lit up. "What's going on? How did you only score 47 points? Hearing my mother's familiar voice, I suddenly opened my eyes and saw my brother hanging his head dejectedly, poking at the rice in his bowl with his chopsticks. Mom frowned, looking at the test paper full of red crosses with a face full of disdain. The same dining table, the same scene, the same position right before my eyes. I realized that I had been reborn. In my previous life, my younger brother had average grades in middle school, and after entering high school, he couldn't keep up with the pace of the lessons at all. No matter how many tutoring classes his mother signed him up for, it was all in vain. His mock exam scores kept getting worse each time, and at his worst, he even failed, scoring only 47 points. Somehow, Mom heard about a smart drug that could supposedly boost a person's IQ after taking it, turning even a fool into a genius, in hopes of helping my younger brother turn his fate around and improve his grades. She and Dad began asking around everywhere to find out where they could buy this smart drug, but I knew that there couldn't possibly be any drug in this world that could make someone instantly smarter just by taking it. Even if such a thing truly existed, it would undoubtedly come at a price that ordinary people could hardly bear. That's why I earnestly tried to stop my mother every time she went to pull strings to get her hands on the so-called smart pills. "Mom, don't let yourself be fooled. How could such a drug exist in this world? Even if my brother's grades aren't great, it's already wonderful if he can live a peaceful and fulfilling life as an honest and kind person." Under the dual pressures of my persistent dissuasion and the exorbitant prices quoted by the drug dealers, my mother gradually gave up on the idea of buying the pills. But later, my younger brother started slacking off because of his poor grades, not studying hard, and in the end, he couldn't even get into a vocational college. After graduation, he found a job through family connections, but he was often late and left early, and was quickly fired. Without a job, my brother spent his days sleeping at home and asking the family for money. Seeing her son achieve nothing, my mother began sighing and blaming me at the dinner table. If only we hadn't listened to your sister back then and given you the smart pills." I didn't know at the time that my brother had taken those words to heart, truly believing that such a thing as a smart pill existed. On the day I had a high fever of 42 degrees due to pneumonia, only my brother and I were at home. I was completely weak, my vision was blurry, and I didn't even have the strength to reach for the medicine bottle on the bedside table. I begged my brother to help me get the medicine, but he just stood there with his arms crossed, glaring at me fiercely. "When you tried so hard to stop Mom from buying me the smart pills, did you ever think you'd be begging me for medicine one day? Serves you right." I was critically ill, on the brink of death. No matter how much I pleaded with him, my younger brother refused to give me the medicine or take me to the hospital. In the end, I died due to the lack of timely treatment, and because my mother was left with only my brother as her child. Not only did she not blame him at all, but she cherished him even more as the family's only son. Thinking of this, a chill rose from the depths of my heart. When my younger brother took out his 47-point test paper again for our mother to sign, I casually mentioned with a smile, "Mom, didn't you say last time that you found a medicine that could make people smarter?" Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my brother's eyes light up. This time, I really want to see what kind of genius my brother can become after taking the smart pills. "Didn't you tell me not to buy them before, saying they were a scam?" I explained. "I thought about it, and it's not a solution for my brother to keep getting such poor grades. If he can't get into a good school in the future, he'll be laughed at by others. Now that there's a method, we should at least give it a try." Mom put down the bright red test paper, seemingly hesitating. "But I've asked about that medicine, and it's quite expensive." I deliberately added, "If such a medicine really exists, And other people's children take it and improve their grades, while my brother, because he didn't get to take it, stays at the bottom of the class. Wouldn't that mean he's already lost to others even before the college entrance exam? Whether it's expensive or not, effectiveness is what matters most. If spending money can secure my brother's future, why not do it? I continued to add fuel to the fire. By the way, I heard that Auntie Win's son next door has improved again this time. Last exam he was still ranked in the 20s in the class, but this time he made it into the top 10. Auntie Win's son and my younger brother attend the same school. Whenever her child performs well in exams, Auntie Win happily brings some fruit to share with the neighbors to spread the joy. Every time Auntie Win brings fruit over, my mother gets very upset. After closing the door, she immediately dumps the fruit into the trash bin. What's there to show off about? It's just a few more points on a test, nothing worth bragging about. Mom, who had been hesitating, immediately stopped eating as soon as I mentioned Aunt Wen. She pulled out her phone and walked back to her room. Watching Mom's retreating figure, I suppressed the smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. She must be rushing to contact the drug dealer. 3 days later, after dinner, Mom mysteriously brought a box of medicine from her room and handed it to my brother. Her voice was full of pride. Quick, son, take this medicine every day from now on. It can develop your brain and boost your IQ. I've spent a fortune on this for you, so you better make me proud. The medicine box had no instructions or labels, not even a manufacturer, only the 3 large characters "Smart Pills" printed on it. It was clearly a product without proper certification. My younger brother excitedly held the box of medicine and nodded repeatedly. Taking the pills on time every day as instructed by our mother. After taking the medicine for a while, whether it was due to the so-called smart pills actually working or not, his grades really improved, and his memory also became stronger. This time, the results of the physics simulation exam came out, and I actually scored a perfect grade, which was completely unprecedented. This time, it was Mom's turn to carry fruits around and distribute them to the neighbors. My younger brother's impressive performance made Mom hold her head a little higher in front of the neighbors, especially Aunt Wen. The neighbors all asked with envy, "Oh, Zuron's mom, did your Zuron sign up for some tutoring classes? His grades have improved so quickly. How did you teach him? Please share some tips with us." Mom was beaming like a flower, basking in the admiring tone of the neighbors, and she waved her hands repeatedly with feigned modesty. No. What method could I possibly have? It's all thanks to my Zuron being so determined, working hard and studying diligently to achieve these results. We adults don't have to worry much at all. I held the perfect score physics test paper and examined it, thinking suspiciously, did they really just stumble upon a dead mouse like a blind cat? Could there really be some kind of medicine in this world that makes you smarter after eating it? But that very night, Mom received a message from the homeroom teacher. The school has reason to suspect that my brother cheated on the exam because his grades suddenly improved so much, and they say his results are likely to be cancelled. Mom was so angry that she made me take a day off the next day and dragged me to my brother's school to demand an explanation. Mom caused a scene in my brother's teacher's office, shouting, "Why should my son's grades be cancelled? Why do you suspect him of cheating? Just because he didn't do well before, does that mean he can't do well now?" she yelled in a piercing high-pitched voice. "Are you all jealous of my son? Do you all look down on him? Don't you believe I'll report you to the Education Bureau and get you all fired?" Her voice attracted passing students outside who were peeking in, and I awkwardly pulled her aside to calm her down. After my mom caused such a scene at the school, they had no choice but to come up with a solution, letting my younger brother retake the exam alone. I tried to persuade my mom. Anyway, my brother is so smart now, he shouldn't be afraid of retaking the exam. If he still scores high after retaking it, no one will be able to say anything, right? So, my brother was arranged to retake the exam alone in the classroom. Unlike before, he is now brimming with confidence, certain that he would still score a perfect mark if he took the test again. When the retest results came out, his younger brother indeed achieved a perfect score once again. Since taking the medication, his younger brother's academic performance has improved by leaps and bounds, ranking in the top 3 in every subject's mock exams. Due to his outstanding performance, his younger brother was nominated by the class to participate in the physics knowledge competition next week. If it were my brother from before, our family wouldn't have dared to dream of this. Mom thought this was truly a rare and miraculous medicine, feeling grateful that she had spared no expense to buy it for my brother, so she placed an order with the drug dealer to buy more of the smart pills, determined to turn my brother into a true genius. My brother is set to participate in a physics competition next week, but the drug dealer said the pills were sold out and wouldn't be available for another 2 days. But my brother's medicine ran out 2 days ago, and without it, He seems restless all over. Mom, when will the medicine arrive? I've asked, and they said it'll be in stock next week. This is who knows how many times my brother has asked Mom today when the medicine will arrive. These past 2 days, my brother, who hasn't been able to take the smart pills, has been as restless as if bitten by a snake. When my mom asked me to bring some fruit to my brother, I saw him in his room, barely writing a few words in his textbook before throwing his pen to the floor in frustration. He seemed to be growing increasingly restless. The next day, he started pestering my mom again. Mom, has the medicine arrived yet? When will it finally get here? Mom was pressed by his questions and could only comfort him while typing with one hand to urge the drug dealer. My brother irritably tugged at his hair, his voice growing louder. Hurry up and ask. I have a competition next week. What am I supposed to do without the medicine? Don't panic, just stay calm. Mom will definitely find a way for you. Okay. The next day, Mom really managed to buy the medicine ahead of schedule. According to Mom, she paid a higher price to get the drug dealer to give her 2 boxes of medicine originally meant for other customers, with the smart pills. My brother seemed to have a test god possessing him during the physics competition, miraculously securing first place in the entire district. With the top score in the district, he advanced to the next round of the city competition. With the help of the smart pills, my brother became a popular figure at school, but I noticed that my brother's recent dosage of medication seemed off. The new pills Mom bought were gone in less than 2 weeks. My brother went from taking 1 pill a day to 2 pills a day. Recently, I don't know when it started, but I notice my brother has increased his dosage from 2 pills a day to 2 in the morning and another 2 at night. My brother treasures that medicine dearly, seeing it as the hope of his entire life. Usually, he locks the medicine in his own drawer, and no one is allowed to touch it, not even our mother, so I could only wait until nighttime when my brother was taking his medicine and not paying attention, then quickly pinch off a tiny piece of the pill and carefully wrap it up. The next day, I took it to an old classmate who worked at a testing lab after graduating from university for analysis. 3 days later, my old classmate told me that the test results were out. In the medicine you sent over, we detected the presence of psychotropic drug components. It's a type of drug that forcibly stimulates the nerves by adding excessive amounts of psychotropic substances. If taken in large quantities, it can affect the central nervous system. More importantly, it also has a strong addictive potential. He seriously warned me repeatedly, "You must not take this kind of medicine." I smiled. "Don't worry, this medicine isn't mine. It's not me who's taking it." As I was nearing home after work, I saw my mother chatting with neighbors who had just returned from grocery shopping. She was beaming like a bright sunflower, and 9 out of 10 sentences she spoke were about my younger brother winning first place in the competition. "Oh my, you have no idea, my son. He studied day and night to achieve these results. It really breaks my heart." I always try to persuade that child, saying grades aren't the most important thing. His mom and dad just want him to be healthy and well, but that child won't listen. He insists on saying how hard his parents have worked to raise him, and that he must study hard and get good grades to repay us. We just can't talk him out of it. Now, in a few days, he's going to compete in the city-level competition, and he's full of confidence, saying he's sure to win an award. The neighbor aunties all praised in turn, saying how promising my brother is and how blessed my mother is. I walked straight past them without any expression on my face. As soon as I entered the house, I heard an indistinct sigh coming from my brother's room. I quietly took 2 steps closer and peeked through the slightly ajar door into my brother's room, seeing the open box of smart pills on my brother's desk. He leaned back in his chair, eyes closed, his head tilting straight back. His face wore an expression of satisfied pleasure, as if he were about to ascend to heaven. In my previous life, it was me who ascended and then dropped dead. Now, my dear brother, you too can enjoy the feeling of falling from heaven into the abyss. At the dinner table, my brother put down his chopsticks after just a few bites. "Mom, I'm almost out of medicine again. Make sure to buy more in advance this time. Get a good amount, don't just buy a little bit at a time." Mom was a bit surprised. Already finished again, but the very next second, she quickly agreed. "All right, I'll go place the order for you right away." But 2 days later, my brother had already finished his medicine, and the new batch Mom ordered still hadn't arrived. With no new medicine to continue his treatment, my brother immediately started shouting, "Where's the medicine? Where is it? Didn't I tell you to buy it in advance?" Mom hurried over to calm him down. "Son, I asked about that medicine a couple of days ago, but the seller jacked up the price on the spot. The price shot up 4 or 5 times in an instant. That person has no morals. We can't let them profit from such heartless money. Let's wait a few days. If they see we're not buying because of the price hike, they'll surely lower the price on their own and beg us to buy the medicine." I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe, Listening half-heartedly, it turned out that the medicine peddler, noticing Mom was buying the medicine more and more frequently, had started taking advantage of the situation to raise the price. Mom looked at the suddenly skyrocketing drug prices, hesitated, and didn't place the order. When my younger brother heard that Mom hadn't bought the new medicine, perhaps the side effects of the drug kicked in. His expression changed almost instantly, and he became extremely agitated. He completely ignored what Mom was saying and just kept shouting loudly, "I don't care, I want the medicine, I want the medicine, how can I study without it, how can I go to the city for the competition?" Arguing and arguing, the situation grew increasingly intense. My brother raised his hand and swept everything off the coffee table, leaving the floor in a complete mess. Mom was terrified and immediately grabbed her phone to promise my brother, "Don't worry, Mom will buy it right away, right away. No matter how expensive it is, Mom will get it for you. I'll bring it back for you tomorrow." Hearing Mom promise that she would definitely get the medicine tomorrow, my brother, who had just been acting like a ferocious beast, immediately calmed down, his eyes red. He stared blankly at Mom. "Promise, tomorrow, you'll give me the medicine tomorrow." The title of being the top student in the entire district brought my brother an unprecedented sense of achievement. Coupled with the big talk Mom and the neighbors had been boasting about, they cannot easily give up the vanity brought by the smart pills, so, gritting her teeth, Mom waited until Dad came home in the evening. After discussing it together, they opened the bedside table, they took out a locked iron box and retrieved the bank card inside. The next day, Mom went to the bank, withdrew the savings, and used the money to buy expensive smart pills for her younger brother. That money was originally the family savings they had accumulated together over all these years. Back then, they had agreed that unless something life-threatening happened to the family, they would never touch the money in that card. In my previous life, when I died from illness while my brother stood by and watched indifferently, my mother didn't even spend a penny on a simple funeral for me. Now, to buy medicine for my brother, they're even willing to dig into their savings. If it were in my previous life, I would have desperately tried to stop my mother from using the family savings to buy that kind of medicine, but this time, I chose to respect their decision. With the new medicine, my brother returned to his usual humble demeanor around the neighbors. If I hadn't witnessed my brother's violent outburst yesterday when he ran out of medicine, who would have connected this well-behaved, top-performing brother with the madman from yesterday? Under the influence of the smart drug, my brother seemed to feel less and less hungry. He ate less and less of the meals Mom prepared each day, spending more time alone in his room. Whenever Mom knocked on the door to call him out for meals, he would only reply, "I'm not hungry, I'm studying." Mom wasn't annoyed or worried. Instead, she was delighted, thinking the smart drug had made him more eager to learn. But I knew it was because he had been taking this type of psychiatric medication for a long time, and his senses were gradually becoming disordered. My brother opened his door after a long time, and the first thing he did upon seeing Mom was to ask for money to buy more medication, but it had only been a week since Mom last spent tens of thousands of her savings on medication. Mom, who was still stir-frying, wiped her hands and said, "How did you finish it so quickly again, unexpectedly?" Just this quiet, puzzled question from Mom was enough to set my brother off. "What do you mean too fast? Do you not want to buy my medicine anymore? If I take the medicine, I can get first place in the next competition again. Won't that make you proud?" Mom was stunned by his sudden outburst. No, Mom never said she wouldn't buy it for you," my brother yelled. "Then hurry up and buy it. I have to go to the city for the competition next week. How can I go without the medicine?" Mom looked troubled, but after thinking for a while, she still agreed. Okay. However, when Mom placed a new order with the medicine dealer, she still found herself in a difficult situation. Unknowingly, my brother's required dosage of medicine has been increasing more and more. I suspect the drug dealer knows that those who take this medicine develop a strong dependency on it. Last time, the price increased by 4 to 5 times, and this time, the price has actually been raised tenfold. Last time, my mother spent half of her savings just to buy a week's supply of medicine. This time, the remaining savings aren't even enough to buy 3 days' worth. With my brother's city competition coming up next week, the medicine absolutely cannot be stopped. In the evening, Dad came home from work. I heard Mom discussing with him in the living room about not having enough money for medicine. Our son is about to compete, but the price of medicine keeps rising faster and faster. We don't even have enough money to buy it anymore. What should we do? Dad leisurely sipped the hot tea from his cup and slowly said, "Tomorrow, let's talk to Yunren and ask her to take out her own money for us." She wouldn't agree, would she? This is a matter for the whole family. If Zuran succeeds, we all benefit, as the older sister. How can she stand aside? Hearing this, A chill instantly spread from the soles of my feet all the way to my fingertips. The next day, my mother sat me down with a beaming smile. Yunren, dear, I need to discuss something with you. I smiled but didn't respond. She continued on her own. The medicine your brother has been taking has been getting more and more expensive lately. Your dad and I have already used up all our savings, and it's still not enough to cover the cost. But your brother has a city competition coming up in just a few days. Without that medicine to help him, he won't be able to perform well. We're family. Your brother's matter is the whole family's matter, which means it's your matter too. Your father and I have discussed it. You should first take out 50,000 to help your brother buy medicine. I quickly pulled my hand back, pretending to exclaim, Mom, where would I get 50,000 yuan? I only earn a few thousand a month from this job, and I give you living expenses every month, spending it all each time. How could I possibly save any money? She frowned and said sternly, then you can borrow from friends or colleagues first. If that doesn't work, isn't there that kind of online lending now? Go try borrowing some to help your brother. I lied in response. I'm notoriously unpopular at the company. No one is willing to lend me money. As for online loans, I don't have any assets in my name, so I can't borrow any money either. My mother's face darkened. I can see it now. You're just making excuses to avoid helping your brother, aren't you? This won't work. That won't work. How can you be so heartless as an older sister? I pretended to be in a difficult position, feigning deep thought for a moment. Why don't you just borrow money from our relatives? I threw her own words back at her. Just tell our aunts, uncles, and in-laws that my brother's business is the whole family's business, and that means it's their business too. If my brother wins awards, gets into a top university, and makes it big, the whole family will share in the glory. We're all family. They'll definitely lend the money. Mom looked as if she'd been struck by a sudden realization and slapped her forehead. Yes, that's right. After saying that, she picked up her phone and sent a message in the family group chat. Dear family, are you there? Mom chatted about everything in the family group and even called relatives one by one to borrow money, finally managing to gather enough for my brother's medicine. When Mom handed the medicine to my brother, his eyes lit up, his smile stretched from ear to ear, and his trembling hands held the medicine as if it were the most sacred treasure. But on the day my younger brother was supposed to go to the city for the competition, his homeroom teacher called my mother directly. It was said that my brother had gone crazy during the exam. When my mother and I rushed to pick him up and bring him home, the moment my brother saw my mother, he started shouting that he wanted to go home. He grabbed my mother's arm tightly and shook it. Go home, medicine. I didn't bring my medicine. My brother kept mentioning medicine, and Mom, feeling guilty and afraid that the teacher would find out he was relying on medication to improve his grades, pulled him out of the exam hall and hailed a taxi to go home. As soon as he got home, my brother rushed straight to his room, rummaged through the drawer, and without a second thought, popped 2 pills into his mouth. Then, as if he had melted into a puddle of mud, he slumped into a chair, staring at the ceiling with a smile. But because of this last-minute withdrawal, my brother's qualification for the exam was naturally cancelled. Mom's bragging rights as the first-place winner in the competition also went down the drain. Looking at my brother, who had failed to live up to our expectations, Mom suddenly grew angry. Look at you, pulling this stunt right before the competition. All the money we spent has gone to waste. I even promised your grandparents that you would definitely win first place this time to show them. Do you have any idea how humiliated I felt in front of your teacher today, as she scolded him? She angrily jabbed her finger at her brother's temple. No matter what their mother said, the brother had remained indifferent at first, but the moment her finger touched him, he sprang straight up from the stool. He yelled at the top of his lungs, "Get out!" He forcefully pushed Mom out of the door. Mom didn't expect her son to resort to physical force. Caught off guard by his sudden shove, she lost her balance and stumbled backward, her lower back slamming directly into the corner of the table. The pain was so intense that she couldn't stand up straight, beads of sweat dripping from her forehead. I had no choice but to call an ambulance and send her to the hospital. In the hospital, my mother lay weakly on the sickbed. The doctor said she had hit a bone and needed to stay in the hospital for observation for 2 days. Seeing my mother lying sick in bed, I felt a bit of compassion. I sat by the bedside, trying to reason with her gently. Mom, don't you still think there's something wrong with that medicine? Haven't you noticed how my brother acts like he's lost his mind whenever he's off it? Unexpectedly, even lying in the hospital bed, she immediately started scolding me as soon as she heard this. What do you know? Your brother just wants to bring honor to the family. What's wrong with him wanting to get good grades and secure a future? You not only refuse to help your brother, but you also have the nerve to speak ill of him here. All right, look at my mouth. Once again, I've said too much. Suddenly, I felt like I was the one who had lost my mind for trying to reason with her earlier. Since all the family savings had been spent on medicine for my brother, we couldn't even afford the medical bills after my mother was hospitalized, so I had to cover them. Dad and I have been taking turns looking after Mom in the hospital these past 2 days, so no one at home has had time to keep an eye on my brother. On the day Mom was discharged from the hospital, Dad and I went to pick her up and bring her home. When we got home, we found the house completely empty. The TV, refrigerator, air conditioner, everything was gone. It looked as if it had been ransacked by thieves. Dad rushed into his younger brother's room, only to find him sitting on the floor, leaning against the bed, his cheeks sunken and his eyes vacant. "What's going on? Where have all the things in the house gone?" His younger brother replied nonchalantly, as if it were nothing. Sold them. Sold them. Are you trying to turn the world upside down? Did you even ask us before you went ahead and sold everything? The younger brother looked at his father with disdain. You have the nerve to blame me? Who told you two to be away from home these past few days? No one's home. And you didn't leave me any money. I ran out of medicine, so what the hell was I supposed to do to get money to buy more? His father was so angry he felt choked up, and without thinking, he grabbed a book from the table and threw it at him. Mom stood between them, supporting her recently injured waist. All right, stop arguing. It's my fault. I've been in the hospital these past few days, feeling all groggy, and I didn't even realize my son's medicine was almost gone. With that, she took out her phone again and bought new medicine from the drug dealer. Mom thought that even though her son had an accident during the last competition and couldn't compete, as long as he kept taking the medicine, he could still achieve good results in future exams. But within 2 days, my mother received another call from my younger brother's homeroom teacher. The teacher on the phone sounded slightly angry. Zuron's mom, if you have time, please come to the school. Zuron took a classmate's money without permission. When I helped my mother to my younger brother's school office, a classmate was standing nearby, while my brother remained motionless, staring blankly at the desk. Zuron's mom, I asked you to come today because I wanted to talk to you. Zuron has been very distracted in class lately, and he often hands in his homework completely blank. I've had to call his name several times during class just to get a response. Today was even more outrageous. He actually went through another student's bag without permission and took their wallet. My mother completely ignored the teacher's earlier comments about my brother's recent behavior and immediately jumped to his defense. No, teacher, with so many students in the class, how can you just assume it was my child who stole the money? Couldn't it have been lost by the student herself? However, the teacher immediately turned the computer monitor on the desk toward her. Of course, I know I can't accuse a student without evidence. This is the surveillance footage from our classroom. You can take a look. The footage on the computer clearly showed the younger brother taking advantage of the empty classroom during a physical education class, rummaging through the classmate's bag and putting the wallet into his own pocket, with the evidence right in front of her. My mother had nothing to say. She had no choice but to grit her teeth and repay the money to that classmate on behalf of my brother, and she also apologized for him. After returning home, my mother didn't even care about her aching back and slammed the table with a loud bang. Speak, why did you steal the money? My brother responded lazily, buying medicine. Mom unconsciously raised her voice. Didn't I just buy you new medicine a couple of days ago? My brother complained. That little bit of medicine, how could it possibly be enough? You must be out of your mind from taking those pills. Your grades haven't improved much lately, yet you're swallowing pills like they're meals, and now you've learned to steal money to buy them. You've completely humiliated me in front of your teacher today, you good for nothing. My brother stood up and spread his palms. Enough with the nonsense, either give me the money or give me the pills. How am I supposed to get good grades for you without them? Haven't we spent all the family's money on buying you pills, and you still think it's not enough? For your sake, I even borrowed money from your dad to get you those pills. What more do you want? Mom was so angry her legs went weak. No money, everything in the house that could be sold has been sold off by you, and the family savings have been completely drained. There's no money. My brother spat in disgust and slammed the door shut as he stormed out. My brother didn't return until late that night after storming out earlier. It's strange, but since that day, my brother hasn't been clamoring to buy medicine anymore. He's also been full of energy, not at all like the listless state he was in before due to the side effects of the medication. I couldn't help but wonder to myself, it's impossible to quit an addictive drug in just one day, but my brother doesn't have any money, so he couldn't have bought the medicine either, and now, he doesn't seem like someone who's going without it. Mom thinks it's because my brother has pulled himself together, knows how to strive for progress, and that's why he's so full of energy now. Just as I was racking my brains trying to figure it out, my mom called for help, and I finally understood where my brother's radiant energy came from. On the phone, my mom cried out, Yunran, come save me. Your dad and your brother are about to be beaten to death. Thinking something terrible had happened, I rushed home without a moment's delay. I saw the front door of my house slightly ajar, with 5 or 6 burly men covered in tattoos standing in the living room. My brother and father were beaten until blood trickled from the corners of their mouths, while my mother huddled fearfully in a corner, supporting my dad. The moment my mother saw me, it was as if she had spotted a lifeline. And tears instantly welled up in her eyes. Pointing at me, she said to the burly men, "She is my daughter, she has money, she has money. Yunran, hurry, quickly pay off your brother's debt, or they won't leave." The leading man raised an eyebrow at me. "You're the Chen family's daughter, perfect timing. Your brother owes us 100,000 yuan, he promised to pay yesterday, but when the deadline came, he was nowhere to be found, so we had no choice but to come collect it in person today. Your parents said they don't have the money, but they said you do, so how about you pay off this debt for your brother?" With that, he tossed an IOU onto the table and pulled out a gleaming knife from his pocket. "If you can't pay back this debt today, then we'll use your brother's fingers to cover the interest. No wonder that scoundrel Chen Ziran hasn't been clamoring for money to buy medicine lately. He went and borrowed from a loan shark on his own." My eyes darted around as I flatly denied it. "I'm not the daughter of this family. Who said I was her daughter? Auntie, why are you claiming relatives so casually? My mom said she cooked some big bone broth at home and asked me to come over to see if you'd like to share some, but it seems like you have something going on today, so I'll just head out." As soon as the words left my mouth, I turned around and bolted. No matter how much my mom shouted after me, I didn't look back, not even a glance. It wasn't until I was far away that I finally made a call to the police. After I brought the police to the door, the officers took all those violent debt collectors back to the station. After the police left, my mother tearfully applied medicine to my father's wounds and began pleading with me to pay off my brother's debt. "Yunran, those people will come back. They even said that if the money isn't repaid, they'll go to your brother's school and wait for him," I said pitifully. "Mom, I gave you all my money for the hospital bills back then. Where would I get the money to pay off my brother's debt now? Maybe you should sell the house. If you sell the house, you'll have money to pay off your brother's debts." My dad eagerly waved his hands repeatedly. "No, we can't sell the house. Where would we live if we sold it?" After saying that, he even grabbed the teacup from the table and threw it directly at his younger brother. The younger brother had no time to dodge, and the solid porcelain teacup hit him squarely on the forehead, breaking the skin. Bright red blood flowed from his forehead down his cheek, but the younger brother seemed to feel no pain, not even letting out a groan. I watched my disheveled younger brother coldly, unable to stop replaying in my mind the scene from my previous life where he had watched me take my last breath. Serves her right, with blood covering his head. My brother grew increasingly fierce. "Isn't it all because of you that I've ended up like this? It's all because you told me there was some kind of smart drug that could turn me into a genius, and now I'm stuck in this state, neither human nor ghost. If it weren't for buying medicine, would I have gone to borrow from loan sharks?" He roared and went berserk, smashing everything in the house that could be broken into pieces. I quickly got up and swiftly retreated to my room, closing the door behind me. All I could hear was my mother shouting outside, "Stop smashing things, stop it," and the sound of my father grabbing something to teach my brother a lesson, shouting, cursing, and the sound of things being smashed echoed one after another, creating utter chaos. Early the next morning, the living room was still littered with broken fragments. My brother was nowhere to be found, and my parents were still asleep in their room. I took out my phone and sent a message. Where should I pick up the goods? The other party sent an address, which was a coffee shop located in an industrial area. When I arrived, there was only one customer in the coffee shop. The person was wearing a black mask and a baseball cap. I walked straight over and sat down across from him. "Where's the medicine?" He handed me a small metal box, payment in cash. Now, when I opened it, the box contained the very smart pills my brother had been taking. I stood up and waved my phone toward a patch of grass outside the glass window. As soon as I finished my move, within just 3 or 4 seconds, 7 or 8 plainclothes police officers immediately rushed out from the grass and charged into the store. The man I was dealing with was subdued instantly, and the store clerk was also taken away. It was almost evening by the time I finished giving my statement at the police station. The police officer politely extended his hand toward me. "Thank you for your righteous report on the drug dealer selling counterfeit and prohibited drugs." When I got home, my parents weren't there, only my younger brother was at home. He was rummaging through every drawer in the house. He noticed me coming in and rushed over to grab my wrist. "Sis, do you have any money? Do you have any money?" I pulled a crumpled 100 yuan bill from my pocket and tossed it to him. He grabbed it and walked out the door. I dragged the suitcase I had packed and prepared the night before out of the room and left this chaotic home. I told my parents that I had been urgently transferred by the company to work on a long-term assignment out of town. After they found out I had left, they called me frantically every day, but I rejected every call. I saw in the family group chat, where everyone was enthusiastically discussing my family's gossip. that my brother hadn't been to school for over a month and had borrowed money from every relative in the group. Ugh, I should have known better than to lend them money back then. They even said that once Zuron wins an award, he could teach my 2 kids for free. No, dream on. Meanwhile, to avoid my enraged brother, my parents moved in with my grandparents temporarily, only to be thoroughly criticized by them. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Pearl, I'm your biological father. Standing on the ribbon-cutting stage, I coldly watched my birth parents and directly called security to have them removed. In my past life, they abandoned me because they favored sons over daughters. I was taken in by my adoptive parents, grew up, returned after completing my studies, and made a fortune, unexpectedly. My biological parents found me and were determined to seize my company and assets, demanding that I transfer all my money to my younger brother for his wedding and put the house under his name. Because I refused, they murdered my adoptive parents and their entire family of 3, then they forced me to sign various transfer documents. They pushed me down the stairs and watched me bleed to death without taking me to the hospital. I hate myself for not protecting my adoptive parents and their family of 3, and I hate my own soft-heartedness for acknowledging such biological parents. After being reborn, I returned to the day of the company's ribbon-cutting ceremony. Pearl, we are your real parents, your biological parents. They pushed through the crowd, shoved aside my adoptive parents standing beside me, and loudly proclaimed in front of all the business partners, looking at the familiar scene before me. I knew I had truly been reborn. I reached out and steadied my adoptive mother. I instructed my elder brother Tom to take them aside to rest. Then I turned to look at the couple, David and Kathy. David was my biological father, and the woman beside him, who acted like a shrew, was my biological mother, Kathy, in my past life. It was on this very day that my biological parents declared in front of everyone that I was their real daughter. They said they regretted their actions and hoped I would return to them, promising to love me twice as much. In my past life, I believed their words and went back to them. I thought I would finally receive their genuine love, but little did I know their true intention was to take over my real estate company. Because their son, John, was lazy and accomplished nothing, the 3 of them had their eyes on my real estate company, claiming that what belonged to the sister should naturally go to the brother, and that I should hand over the company for him to manage. Meanwhile, John had found a girlfriend outside and was about to get married. The woman demanded a house, a car, a betrothal gift, and savings. The 3 of them once again set their sights on me. They wanted me to transfer the money I had worked hard to earn to John as the betrothal gift, and also to transfer one of my villas to him as their new home, of course. I refused, but out of respect for my biological parents, I still transferred $500,000 to John, but they were insatiably greedy and actually wanted all my family property, which I refused. John and the other 2 then went to my adoptive parents to humiliate them. They said my eldest brother was keeping me around just for my money and for my company. My adoptive parents' health had been poor for years due to overwork, and I worked hard to earn money to help treat their illnesses. I never expected that the Davids would force my adoptive parents to support me while maliciously slandering their family of 3. In the end, my adoptive parents couldn't bear the gossip from those around them and died from anger. At the same time, my elder brother, overwhelmed with grief, got into a car accident while drinking outside and also died. I thought that at this point, my biological parents would finally stop. I never thought they would still not let me go. They spread rumors about me online, saying I was ungrateful and didn't know how to repay kindness. My adoptive parents raised me with great difficulty, yet when I became successful, I supposedly drove them to their deaths just to avoid spending money on them. Netizens believed David and his words, and even business partners heard the rumors and refused to work with me. I went to confront David and the others, but they forced me to sign various transfer documents. Amid the scuffle, I was pushed down the stairs. I thought they would send me to the hospital for emergency treatment. Instead, John actually pulled out various transfer documents, took my hand, and pressed it into the blood I had spilled on the ground to make a handprint on the documents. Due to my severe injuries and the lack of timely medical attention, I died on the spot. Looking at the biological parents and their family of 3, endless regrets surged within me. I regretted recognizing them on this day in my past life, which brought me endless suffering. I composed myself and stepped forward. With a cold smile on my face, I said, "Uncle and Aunt, you must have come to the wrong place today. This is my celebration, not some family reunion." Kathy was stunned for a moment, then immediately raised her voice. "Stella, we are your biological parents. They are just your adoptive parents, not your real family." John chimed in beside her. "Yes, I'm your father. We've searched for you so hard. For so many years, many people in the audience were watching us on stage. In fact, quite a few knew I wasn't the biological child of my current parents. They had found me in a trash can years ago, but there were also many watching with curious eyes, some whispering among themselves, "Uncle, I think you've made a mistake. I am my parents' biological daughter, and even if I weren't, I would still treat them as my real parents, after all." They never looked down on me and worked hard to raise me. John's face turned ashen, but Kathy remained oblivious. "No matter what, we are your biological parents, we share a blood bond, and we can prove you're our child. You and your brother have the same birthmark, a banana-shaped one on your waist." I sneered inwardly. Of course I knew what they said was true. In my past life, it was precisely this detail that convinced me they were my biological parents, which made me believe they would genuinely love me. I let out a light chuckle. This lady is right. I do have a birthmark like that, but it's not banana-shaped. I was wearing a full set of Chanel-style skirt today. Gently lifting my top, I revealed the birthmark on my side. "Auntie, look, I'm like this, not the same as your son." The villagers standing nearby saw the birthmark on my waist and nodded in agreement. Then, someone spoke up. "I think this David just sees that Pearl has money now and wants a piece of the pie. Yeah, why didn't he come earlier or later? Now that the child is grown up and earning money, he shows up to claim kinship. There's no such good deal in this world." Yes, back then they were so heartless, actually throwing a 1-year-old child into a trash bin. Luckily, the Hanks happened to find her. The murmurs reached Mr. and Mrs. David's ears, and they denied it. "No. We didn't abandon our daughter on purpose, we accidentally got separated." At that moment, my adoptive parents walked over, their faces filled with anger. My adoptive mother shouted loudly, "Nonsense. Back then, I found Stella in a trash can. It was you who threw her in there." I comforted her. "Mom, don't be angry. I don't know them, and you shouldn't believe what they say." The Davids refused to give up and stubbornly tried to pull me to recognize them. I deftly avoided them and turned to the nearby security guard. "Security, throw them out." Several security guards came up to escort David away. At this moment, John rushed forward and started pulling violently, shouting, "Don't touch my parents, don't touch my parents." Kathy suddenly thought of something and immediately pulled John in front of me. "Look, you and your brother look exactly alike, your biological siblings." Everyone's gaze kept shifting between me and John's faces. I admit, John and I do look remarkably alike. Our facial features clearly show we're siblings. I signaled the security guards to pull them aside. Casually, I remarked, "There are plenty of people in the world who look alike. It's not just him and me. Search online, and you'll find tons of people who resemble me." John was getting anxious now. "Sister, I really am your brother." Looking at John, the resentment in my heart grew even stronger. In my past life, it was this very brother who, like a vicious vampire, drained the blood of John and his wife, and now he wanted to suck mine dry. A perfectly healthy adult man with all his limbs intact, dreaming every day that the sky would rain money instead of working hard to earn it. Of course, this could also be attributed to David and his wife spoiling her from a young age. David was actually someone who favored sons over daughters. Seeing Kathy give birth to a daughter as their first child, he was displeased. Soon, Kathy became pregnant with their second child, and after 10 months, she gave birth to a son as they had hoped. Upon seeing he now had a son, David became even more reluctant to raise their daughter, so they abandoned me, keeping only that one son in their hearts. I sneered, "Don't call me sister, we don't know each other. Before today, I'd never even seen your family of 3. John wanted to say more. I shouted for security to throw them out. Returning home, my adoptive parents were still a bit uneasy, worried that I might have been too heartless, which wouldn't be good for my reputation or the company's. I smiled and said, "Mom, you're just too kind. Do you really believe everything they say?" My elder brother Tom also nodded in agreement. "Yes, there are many bad people nowadays. Don't trust others too easily." My mother still seemed a little unconvinced. "But that young man really looks so much like you. Maybe they really are your biological parents." Mom paused for a moment before continuing. "What I mean is, if you want to acknowledge them, your dad and I won't object. After all, they are your biological parents. They didn't raise you, but they did give birth to you." I stepped forward and hugged Mom tightly, resting my head on her shoulder. "Mom, don't worry. No matter what, I'll always be your real daughter. I'm grateful that you were there for me back then. If it weren't for them, I might have died in a trash can, unnoticed, just a tiny child. After all." Mom patted my back. "Such a big kid still wanting hugs, like you haven't grown up at all." I wriggled and cooed, "I'll always be your child." I love hugging Mom. Elder brother Tom teased me too. Dad was cooking in the kitchen. I could already smell the delicious food. "Time to eat. You've been working hard all day. Come and have some," Dad said as he brought out the dishes. I knew that even though I had publicly rejected David and the others yesterday, they would still come looking for me again, because I understood their greed. After finishing lunch, I took my eldest brother to check on the progress at the new construction site. Back then, when my eldest brother struggled academically, he voluntarily dropped out of school to save money for the family, allowing me to be the only one to attend university. My eldest brother only had a junior high school education. To take care of our parents, he had been doing odd jobs nearby to make a living. Suddenly, my brother's phone rang. He answered on speakerphone. "Tom, hurry back home. That family of 3 came again yesterday and went straight to your house." Hearing this, I grabbed my brother and rushed back. I felt a surge of fear. I never expected them to come so soon, 3 days earlier than in my previous life, in my past life. It was because they secretly met my parents behind my back and said things they shouldn't have. Their words burdened my parents' hearts, causing their health to deteriorate further. My parents have always been honest and law-abiding people, never doing anything harmful or unethical, let alone seizing others' money. Yet, on their first visit, David and his group outright accused my parents of keeping me under their control just to take my money, claiming we were hoarding wealth for their own son. Tom, David projected his own ugly intentions onto my parents. My father was so angry he couldn't speak, and my mother fainted from sheer rage. At this thought, I quickened my pace. In this lifetime, I will never repeat the same mistakes. David wants my money, but he won't get a single cent from me. Before even entering the house, I could hear Kathy's voice. "Hank, don't think I don't know what you're up to. You're just after my daughter's money. That's why you won't let them acknowledge us. How could you be so wicked, tearing flesh and blood apart like this?" Hearing these words, I gritted my teeth in fury. Spotting an iron rod in the corner, I grabbed it and charged inside. "I'll beat you 2 shameless bastards to death. How dare you come to my house and bark like dogs?" As I spoke, I swung the iron rod toward John. I knew the Davids treasured their son, so they would surely be afraid that I might actually hurt John and would pull him away to flee. Sure enough, when they saw me swinging the iron rod, they screamed in terror. One of them grabbed me while the other pulled John away to escape. I broke free from Kathy. Turning around, I glared at them fiercely. "If you come to my house again, I'll call the police and report you for trespassing, getting your son locked up for half a month." Hearing my words, David tried to step forward and hit me. "You unfilial daughter, how could you treat your brother like this?" My father stood in front of me. Afraid that David might actually hit me, I said to Tom, "Big brother, help Mom and Dad inside to rest. Let Mom lie down. Mom has high blood pressure, and she was just upset by David and his group. Now she's having trouble breathing." After they all went inside, I finally turned to look at David. "Little brother, Pearl, have only one big brother, and that's Tom," I said loudly. Kathy stepped forward, pointing at me and said, "How could you do this? John is your real brother. That Tom has nothing to do with you. I never said you were my family. My surname is Tang, not Lee. If you don't leave now, don't blame me for calling the police." David and his family of 3 were really afraid I'd call the police, so they left awkwardly. They even threatened to come back, saying our blood ties could never be severed. I sneered inwardly. I'll make sure he's cut off. The debt of killing my parents and harming my elder brother in my past life, I'll repay it all in this lifetime. When I returned to my room, I found that Mom's condition still wasn't good. I immediately called for an ambulance. Mom said, "Don't worry about me, I just need to rest for a while." I knew Mom was concerned that I'd spend too much money. "Mom, I'm still taking you to the hospital for a checkup, otherwise, neither of us will feel at ease." Just like in my previous life, the examination revealed that my mother had high blood pressure, along with breast nodules. The doctor said the hypertension is somewhat severe, so I must pay serious attention to my diet from now on and remember to take medication on time. As for the breast nodules, they're grade 3 and benign, but there's still a possibility of worsening, so I need to get checked every 3 months. When my mother heard this, she didn't quite believe it. It can't be that exaggerated. Needing checkups every 3 months, and there's no need to prescribe so much medicine. I'll just be more careful with my diet from now on. But I insisted Mom listen to the doctor. At the same time, I persuaded Dad to get a full checkup too. In my past life, Mom died from a sudden high blood pressure attack caused by anger, but Dad's cause of death was never determined. He just passed away suddenly not long after Mom. Mom and I waited at the hospital while my eldest brother took Dad for his physical examination. When Big Brother returned, he was holding many test samples. "How did it go?" I asked Big Brother. Big Brother looked somewhat nervous. "Everything else is fine, but there's one more test that needs to be sent to the provincial hospital to confirm the results." I was startled. "Which one?" "Often. Such cautious behavior in a hospital is 9 times out of 10 a sign of a serious illness, stomach cancer." I knew it. My father might really have stomach cancer. I'd often heard him complain about stomach pain before, yet he never went to the hospital to get it checked. He would save every penny for my education. In order to earn more money, Dad often skipped meals, sometimes eating only once a day, which was a common occurrence. My dad, however, took it lightly. Don't listen to the doctor's nonsense. They're just trying to scare us into spending more money. Look. This checkup alone cost over $2,000. Back at home, my parents' mood seemed unaffected. They believed life would go on as usual. If they hadn't noticed anything wrong before, nothing would change in the future either. But I knew the situation might be serious. Mom's illness can be managed with care. As for Dad's condition, if confirmed, we'll need to assess whether it's mild or severe. If it's mild, that's manageable. I'll spare no expense to get him the best medicine for recovery. I hope in this lifetime, by arranging checkups for them early, we can detect any illnesses sooner. No matter what, if they're sick, I'll do everything in my power to save them. If domestic medicine falls short, I'll take them abroad for treatment. Before doing all this, I need to deal with David's family first. In my past life, my parents and eldest brother died because of them. I must take care of David and his people first, so my parents can recover peacefully and my brother can live on safely. I found John's girlfriend Kara. In her past life, Kara didn't truly love John, while John genuinely loved Kara and was willing to do anything for her, always trying to show off beyond his means in front of her. In that previous life, the reason John was so desperate for money was inseparable from Kara's provocative words. The reason I sought out Kara was to use her hand to eliminate John's family of 3. I wanted revenge on them, but of course I couldn't do it with my own hands, otherwise. Even if I get revenge on John and the others, I might end up in prison myself. At the cafe, Kara showed up for our meeting wearing the trendiest miniskirt, then she sat down across from me quite rudely. Surprisingly, Kara recognized me. After sitting down, she smiled and said, "Sis, I didn't expect you to reach out to me." I sneered. Kara actually acted like we were old friends. "So, I heard you're dating John and about to get married. Is that true?" I asked Kara. Kara complained, "Yes. But John is useless. He doesn't even have a place for us to live after marriage, and he has no savings at all. How can I marry him when he has nothing?" I sneered inwardly. Just like in my previous life, it was Kara who wanted the wedding house and the savings. "But I heard you're John's biological sister. Since your brother is getting married, you'll definitely help him, right?" Kara said. I picked up my coffee and smiled. Of course. If they were really my biological parents and brother, I would definitely help him. Yes, sister, John is still immature, but after he marries me, I'll make sure to teach him to be filial to you, Kara said with a smile. Don't get too happy yet. I'm still not sure if they're really my family. Kara was surprised. Sister, John really is your biological brother. He looks exactly like you. Looking alike doesn't prove anything, you know, now that I have money. Many people know I'm my parents' adopted daughter and are scheming to claim kinship. John and his family could be the same, I said. After hearing this, Kara nodded. Right, sister, you must be careful. There are many bad people these days. I raised my eyebrows. Kara actually agreed with what I said. But sis, John and the others are different. Uncle and Aunt really are your biological parents, and John is your real younger brother. I nodded. I suspect so too, but I still can't be sure. I'm afraid they might be lying to me. Sis, tell me, what would it take for you to believe them? Kara finally got to the point, and I looked at her mockingly. So I came to you. You must be quite familiar with John and the others. I'd like to ask for your help. Today I didn't leave this favor to Kara because John called her. Perhaps my words had an effect, as Kara happily went to meet John. The hospital test results came out quickly. Fortunately, Dad did have stomach issues, but it wasn't as severe as stomach cancer. Take good care of yourself. Make sure to eat on time from now on. Don't overeat, but don't skip meals either, the doctor advised me. I listened carefully to the doctor's words and noted down all the instructions. When I got home, I also reminded Dad to eat well. Dad smiled and said, "See, I told you you're worrying too much. There's nothing wrong with me, and you're wasting so much money." I didn't say much more. Just reminded my eldest brother to take good care of our parents. The next day, John came to my house again to see me. John said he would take me for a paternity test. I calmly plucked a strand of hair from my head and said, "Here, take it for comparison. Let's see if we're really family." John took my hair and left happily. I sneered. In my past life, John had done the same thing, all to make me fully believe that David and his wife were my biological parents, so they could take my money with even more justification. That strand of hair just now is one I casually picked up from Kara yesterday. Coincidentally, Kara also has long black hair just like me. In this lifetime, I will never be your sister, John. We will never share a blood relation. Thinking of this, my mood improved considerably. Enjoying the breakfast made by Dad, I happily went to work at the company. The company has expanded its scale and recently partnered with several building materials enterprises. Today, I need to go and sign the procurement contracts. To my surprise, I actually saw David and his wife in my company, and my employees were serving them tea and water, treating the couple as if they were royalty. I strode over angrily and demanded, "What are you doing, Leo? How could you let anyone into my office?" Leo was startled. "Boss, they said they were your biological parents. Leo, you can submit your resignation letter. Don't bother coming to work tomorrow." Seeing the fury on my face, Leo knew further words were useless and left with a dejected expression. Kathy stood up and said to me with a smile, "This girl is quite good, knows how to handle things." I looked at them coldly. "Will you leave on your own, or should I call security?" David stood up angrily. "Pearl, how can you treat us like this? We really are your biological parents." "That's right, your brother has already gone for that DNA test. You'll soon find out whose child you really are," Kathy added. On the tea mountain, it was my set of exquisite teaware, and now the tea they brewed was actually being served to David and his group. The thought of this filled me with rage. I picked up the tea set directly and threw it into the trash. "I detest everything about David and his people. Sir, please leave my company immediately, or I'll call the police." David didn't leave but sat down again. "I'm not going. I'm your biological father. What's wrong with me visiting my daughter's company? What's yours is mine. Why can't I come?" I let out a cold laugh. "What's mine is yours." "David, where did you get such thick skin? Do you think this is like picking up money from the ground? Whoever sees it gets to keep it." David choked up, because that was his true thought, in his heart. Everything Pearl had belonged to him and would eventually be his son John's. Moreover, their family desperately needed these things now. John was about to get married, requiring not only a dowry of $500,000 but also a house, a car, and proof of savings. The old couple had no way to afford all this and had nearly given up hope. Who would have thought their biological daughter would reappear, and even become so wealthy? It was as if heaven itself was helping David. So the David family of 3 started calculating, planning to reclaim Pearl's assets and make them their own. After all, she's just a girl who'll eventually marry. Should she really take all these assets with her when she does? Of course not. These assets should rightfully go to her birth parents and biological brothers. What does that Mitchell family think they are? Just because they raised Pearl for a few years, they think they're something special. Huh? If they don't raise you, someone else will. Pearl, back then, Mom and Dad really had a hard time. You know, our family was very poor and couldn't afford to raise 2 children. David began playing the emotional card, using the same old tactics as in the previous life. But how could Pearl possibly fall for his nonsense again in this lifetime? So Pearl directly cut David off. "Enough, I don't want to hear about your family matters. It has nothing to do with me. Go away. And don't come looking for me again. We have no relationship." David was furious and walked away reluctantly, muttering, "You are my daughter, and that's an unchangeable fact." David spoke loudly in front of the company employees, ensuring everyone heard him, saying that Pearl was his biological daughter and now she refused to acknowledge her own parents. He added that such a boss wasn't worth following, and so on. A young female employee stepped forward and said, "Sir, if Pearl is really your daughter, why didn't you come looking for her years ago? Pearl was really poor a few days ago, when her company wasn't up and running yet. She didn't even have food to eat. Where were you?" David was stunned by the question and immediately blushed. "I just didn't find her at that time. How would I know how she was doing?" After saying this, he fled through the company's front door. The employees behind him all cast disdainful glances. I gave the female employee a grateful look and decided to give her a raise. Kara came to see me, and I was waiting for her to arrive. "Sis, I want to work at your company. Is that possible?" I was surprised by her words but calmly asked, "Oh, why?" Kara tried to win me over by saying, "Sis, we're going to be family anyway, and I've been looking for a job. I saw online that your company is hiring for an office position. I could do that." Actually, we had already filled the office position at my company, but the job posting hadn't been taken down yet. I never expected Kara to set her sights on this opportunity. "Sorry, but we've already hired someone." I refused her. Kara didn't seem too disappointed and even smiled, saying, "It's already full." "Well, never mind then." I smiled without saying a word. Then Kara added, "Sis, last time you mentioned how to prove that John is your biological brother. How can I help you with that?" I replied with a smile. "I haven't figured it out yet. I'm actually waiting for John's paternity test report. I wonder what that family of 3 would look like if they saw different results." The Lincoln family waited for a week and finally received the test report. John opened it in front of his parents and then saw the numbers on it. Is she my daughter?" David asked anxiously. Kathy nodded. John looked at his parents in disbelief and said, "Mom, Dad, could there be a mistake? This says the parent-child relationship is invalid." "What? Impossible. She is our daughter, your sister." David snatched the paternity test report to see for himself, refusing to believe John's words. Seeing the words not a match on the document, David immediately tore it apart. "This is complete bullshit. Pearl must be our daughter," David shouted. Kathy also nodded. Yes, she is our daughter, your sister." John was taken aback at first, then he nodded. "Yes, she is my biological sister." The family of three exchanged glances, and Kathy picked up the broom to sweep away the scraps of paper. I waited at home for 2 days, but John never came to see me. I could also guess that David and the others definitely wouldn't accept the paternity test results and had probably destroyed them long ago. "Pearl, why haven't your biological parents come to see you these past few days?" Mrs. Mitchell asked me. "Mom, it's better if they don't come looking for me. They're not good people anyway, after all." "They are your biological parents," Mrs. Mitchell said with a sigh. A day later, I happened to return from a business trip and heard loud noises coming from my home from afar. I rushed back immediately. There I saw David's family of 3 had come again, and my mother had been pushed to the ground. David was struggling with Tom over something. I shouted, "What are you doing?" After shouting, I ran over to help my mom up and then picked up my phone to call the police. David snapped out of it and quickly knocked my phone away. "Pearl, we're your biological parents." "How could you call the police on us?" Kathy said. "They are my parents. You came to my house today and even pushed and hit my mom and dad. I'm definitely calling the police." I was filled with rage. I never expected they would come again to harm my adoptive parents. How could I not be furious? The phone was knocked to the ground. Its screen shattered. Tom picked it up for me. "Pearl, they came to our house to steal things. What are you stealing?" I asked. "Bullshit. How can you call it stealing? Those things rightfully belong to us," David said shamelessly. Tom said, "Pearl, they were trying to steal your property deed. Just now they were prying open your safe." Hearing this, I was furious beyond measure. "Stealing the property deed? What? Don't you already have a place to live? Why do you need a house?" Kathy thought I was being more agreeable and immediately smiled, saying, "Sweetheart, here's the thing, your brother is getting married, and we need to prepare a new home for them. You're his sister, so you should help him out. I heard you own several properties, so we thought we could borrow one from you for now." "Borrow? For now, meaning you'll return it to me someday?" I asked with a cold laugh. "We're family, why talk about returning things?" Kathy said. I thought for a moment and told my elder brother Tom to take good care of our parents. "Come with me, I have something to discuss with you," I said to David and the others. That bitch Kara was trying to please me while pressuring John for the house behind my back. David and the others were anxious, desperate to get money from me. I need to find a way to deal with them early, so my adoptive parents won't get hurt. David and his family of 3 are simply unreasonable and immoral people. For money, they might be capable of anything. I led David's family of 3 to a nearby park. After they sat down, I asked John, "Earlier, you went for a paternity test. Have the results come out yet?" Just by looking at their flustered expressions, I knew the results were in. "So, are we biologically related?" I asked David. Yes, of course. "You are my daughter. Our family looks so alike," David said. I sneered. "If you say so, then so be it. Now that you're my biological parents, there's something I'd like to ask for your help with. Once this matter is settled, I'll give John a house." David immediately asked, "What is it?" "You already know that my company has just been established. Before, it was just a small team. Now that the company is officially set up, it requires a lot of money. I've taken out various loans and mortgages." John looked slightly surprised. "You mean you don't have any money?" I said, "I do, but it's all borrowed from the bank. I'll just take on a few more projects, earn some money, pay back the loans, and then I can start making profits." David didn't believe it. "Why are you telling me this? All you need to do is admit that you're our daughter." I smiled faintly and nodded. "I can admit it if you show me the paternity test results. Of course, if you really are my parents." Later, with a sincere and earnest attitude, I explained my situation. Using the excuse that my company had just started and had many loans, I lied to them, saying I had no money and was still dealing with debt. The David family of 3 naturally didn't believe it at first. They think I'm lying to them. I told them that if they want to be my biological parents, they must share my debts. David immediately shook his head upon hearing this. "In that case, then you should give me that villa in the city. Your brother is getting married and needs a wedding home. Surely you can lend him your house, right?" I nodded. "Sure." Then I continued, "That house is currently mortgaged to the bank, and I don't have the right to use it. If you want it, you can pay to redeem it." "We don't have the money," John shouted. I also told them that since it was my company's mortgage with a good reputation, the bank could offer a discount. How much to settle it? I held up 3 fingers. 30% off. It's just over $300,000. My apartment was originally worth more than $1 million. If you buy it back now, it should be a great deal." David and John exchanged a glance. They knew exactly where that villa was located. I also knew the value of that property. John and David discussed it and both seemed somewhat convinced by what I said. After all, I had only been at it for a little over 2 years. To build such a large company, I definitely needed money. So borrowing was the only option. "Whether or not you are my biological parents, since you've come looking for me, it must be fate. Out of respect for that fate, I'll give you this opportunity. You just need to come up with $300,000, and that villa will be yours." 300,000 for a high-end villa. It was still very appealing to them. "Can we trust what you're saying?" I said indifferently. "It's up to you. Kara has already approached me, and I think that girl is quite nice." For the next few days, David's family didn't cause any trouble for me or my adoptive parents. Then I heard from Kara that David and his family were raising money. A faint smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. Kara and I sat in the coffee shop. Kara said, "John is so useless. He can't even raise 300,000. Yeah, money isn't easy to come by. I've taken out so many loans myself. Now I'm buried in debt." "Sis, where did you borrow from?" Kara asked. Haha. I smiled faintly, mockery flashing in my eyes. I recommended a loan shark to them. Sure enough, within 2 days, David borrowed 250,000 from the loan shark because they had 50,000 in savings themselves. They directly redeemed my house from the bank. I used a business trip as an excuse to stay away from home. Because it was a loan shark, within a month, 250,000 turned into 500,000. The loan sharks came to collect the debt. David and the others were driven to desperation. Not only did they fail to reclaim the house, but now they were also in debt to loan sharks. Debt collectors came knocking every day, leaving them with nowhere to go. John wanted to find me, but I had already run away, taking my adoptive parents and elder brother to another city for medical treatment. Moreover, I had already suspended the company's operations and shut its doors. By the time I returned, it was because I received a call from the loan shark company. "If you don't come, I'll kill them all. They're your biological parents and eldest brother, right? You can't just watch them die." I let out a cold laugh into the phone, then said, "Big brother, put it on speaker, let me hear their voices to know they're still alive." Followed by, "Pearl, hurry up and bring the money to save me. They're going to kill us. Come save us quickly, little sister. I'm your own elder brother. You can't let me die." I covered my mouth listening to them speak, the corners of my lips nearly splitting from laughter. "John, I don't have any money either. We're not related. You saw the paternity test report. It clearly states we're not connected. And now you expect me to spend money to save you. What gives you the right? In my past life, how did they watch me die? They pushed me down the stairs, then stood by as I bled to death, refusing to take me to the hospital. Their eyes filled only with greed for my property. This life, I just want them to die without anyone knowing. Damn it, turns out you're not related at all, and you still claim she's your biological daughter, so you're also frauds, trying to scam others' money. You're even worse than us." No, she really is our daughter. She has money, she's very rich." I gave a cold laugh. "Listen, buddy, let me make this clear. I have absolutely no connection to them. They do own an old house that's worth some money though. Once they're dead, that property will be yours." With that, I hung up the phone. It wasn't long before the phone rang again. "Boss, mission accomplished. They're both dead." The loan sharks went after Kara, because in the end John said Kara would come to their rescue. I knew John would say that. That's exactly the effect I wanted. This time, Kara won't be able to stay out of it. Once these loan sharks catch up with you, don't expect to live well. Then, I received a photo on my phone, showing 3 corpses, each beaten beyond recognition. Looking at it, I felt both vindicated and tearful. Haha, finally got my revenge. "Big brother, you don't have to die anymore. Mom and Dad, you can live in peace now, and I will always be your daughter, forever honoring and caring for you." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After winning 500 million, I promptly resigned and prepared to return to my hometown to give my parents a good life. Just as I arrived at the doorstep, wanting to surprise them, I called my parents and jokingly told them I had been fired. Hearing this, my parents on the other end of the line immediately panicked. "Lost your job? Then hurry up and find another one. What are you coming back for?" Looking at the hung-up phone, my brother's voice came from inside the house. "Dad, if Jack comes back, he won't be trying to take the house from me, will he?" My dad snorted coldly. "This house is yours. He gets nothing." My mom chimed in too. "Exactly. Your brother has experience working outside, and you're younger. He should definitely give way to you." My parents' words sent a chill down my spine. "But this house, I paid for it entirely with my own money. The joy I'd felt earlier completely vanished after overhearing the conversation between my parents and younger brother inside. After winning the 500 million lottery, I immediately quit my 9-to-9 job without hesitation. Carrying the huge sum of money, I went home, hoping to bring my parents and younger brother a better life. To give them a surprise, I deliberately lied on the phone, telling them I was fired due to poor performance. My parents on the other end of the line fell silent for 2 seconds. Just as I was about to reveal the truth, my father spoke first, got fired and still not hurrying to find another job. "How dare you even call home?" My mother's voice also came through the phone. "Just thinking about coming back to freeload, can't you have some ambition?" Before I could even open my mouth to explain, the call was mercilessly ended. My parents' belittling words left a lump in my throat, filling me with mixed emotions. Standing at the door, I clearly heard my younger brother Jason ask our parents, "Jack wants to come back. Is he trying to steal the house from me?" "Mom, Dad, this house is mine. And no one can take it." Jason is already 26 years old and has been mooching off his parents since graduating from high school. If it weren't for me sending money home every month all these years, they probably would have starved to death. Even the house they live in now is fully paid for by me. Hearing Jason's concerns, my dad reassured him, "This house is definitely yours. If your brother dares to fight you for it, I'll break his legs." Hearing this, my heart completely turned cold. Since childhood, Mom and Dad have always favored Jason especially. Growing up in a two-child family, I naturally took on the responsibilities of an elder brother, always giving way to my younger brother. Otherwise, they wouldn't have worked tirelessly and supported him for so many years without complaint. They even went so far as to try to help him get married, only to end up causing their own breakup because they couldn't afford the bride price. With this in mind, I steadied my gaze and knocked on the door. When my mother saw it was me, a flicker of panic crossed her face. "Jack, how come you're back already?" I walked into the house on my own and said in a flat tone, "Got fired from the company. If I don't come home, where else can I go?" Dragging my luggage, I ignored the gazes of the 3 people in the room and headed straight to my own room. As a result, my original room has now been converted into a computer room. I pointed at the room and looked at my parents. "What's going on here?" My younger brother gave an awkward smile. "Bro, since you don't come home often anyway, and I'm starting a business now, I turned your room into a computer room. You won't blame me, right?" In the past, whenever Jason made a request of me, I almost never refused, but this time, I ignored him and instead asked, "Then where am I supposed to live?" My younger brother exchanged glances with our parents, then familiarly slung his arm over my shoulder. "Bro, why don't you stay at a hotel for a couple days? Dad can reimburse you for half the room fee. How about that?" I slapped his arm away, my tone icy. "This house was bought entirely with my money, and now I don't even get a single room." After I slapped his arm away, Jason's face darkened, his tone laced with impatience. "You're only staying for 2 days. What's the difference if you go to a hotel? Don't take your frustration out on us just because you got fired." His words made me laugh in anger, and I replied with absolute certainty, "Who said I'm only staying for 2 days? Starting today, I'm not leaving. This house is mine. Since there's no room for me here, just give me the keys to that apartment. I'll live there instead." When I mentioned the other property, my mother looked troubled. "That apartment? Your cousin's family is living there. We can't just kick them out." The cousin my mother referred to as my uncle's son. I couldn't believe my face. "So the house I bought myself doesn't have a single place I can live in? How did they even move in? The property is under my name. Even if they moved in, the property management should have gotten my consent." Yet, a hint of guilt flashed across my mom's face. Sensing something was off, my heart began to pound. "Mom, show me the property deed." When I mentioned the property deed, my dad, who had been silent all along, finally spoke up. "Jack, what kind of tone is that? Are you interrogating a criminal?" I know that expression of my dad's all too well. Every time he does something wrong, he glares like that to cover up his guilt. The more I thought about it, the more something felt off, so I immediately rushed into my parents' room. They always kept things like property deeds and bank books under the mattress. I yanked off the bedsheet and sure enough, the property deeds were underneath. By the time my dad and the others tried to stop me, I had already opened those 2 property deeds. Seeing the household registration clearly bearing my father's name, I felt my vision go dark. For 8 years of working, I scrimped and saved every month, not only supporting my parents and Jason, but even managing to save up twice for buying a house. Because I was living away from home, I left all the house buying matters to my parents. They patted their chests to reassure me, even thoughtfully sending me photos of the property deed. Little did I know, it was all a lie. From the very beginning, the property deed was registered under my father's name. The property deed they gave me, just a photoshopped image. Seeing that the truth was out, My dad suddenly snatched the property deed from my hand. Does it really matter whose name is on the property deed? I'm your father. Do you really think I'd take your house for myself? Hearing this, I looked at him and reached out my hand directly. Great, now that I'm back, you can transfer the ownership to me. I never expected I'd say this. My dad choked up. It was Jason who reacted the fastest. Jack, I get it now. You came back just to take the house, Dad. Look at my brother's attitude. We can't possibly give him the house. My father nodded repeatedly, looking at me with disgust in his eyes. You unfilial brat. The moment you come back, you set your sights on my house. A disgrace like you. Get out of here now. From today onward, I no longer have a son like you. I watched my parents, who were willing to sever ties with me over 2 properties, with a bitter smile. My heart felt like a gaping hole filled with icy wind. Perhaps when my parents deceived me out of the savings I had painstakingly gathered, intended for proposing to my girlfriend, I should have realized, in their hearts, only Jason is truly their son. Years of pent-up grievances erupted at this moment. Since that's the case, from today onward, we no longer have any relationship. Dragging my luggage, I wandered aimlessly down the street. When I left home, not a single family member even tried to stop me. At this thought, I, a grown man, burst into tears right there on the street. Sir, what's wrong with you? Just as I was crouching by the roadside, crying uncontrollably, a man who looked like a student bent over with concern and handed me a tissue. Noticing the suitcase beside me, he patted my shoulder. Having trouble finding a job, brother, there are many setbacks in life. Look at me, I've been chasing a client for over 10 days. And just when it was time to pay, they stood me up. When I go back today, my boss is definitely going to give me an earful, but aren't I still fine? A man doesn't shed tears easily. Buddy, cheer up, there's no hurdle you can't overcome. Looking at the man who was comforting me with his own sad story, I gave him a grateful glance. Noticing the rental contract in his hand, I remembered that I still hadn't found a place to stay today. Me, are you a real estate agent? The young man nodded, somewhat embarrassed, and said, I just graduated and started this job recently. Haven't made a single deal yet. Recalling how he mentioned being stood up earlier, to thank him, I took the initiative to ask, I happen to need a house, with a budget of 10 million, if I can move in today, I can sign the contract with you immediately. The man stared at me in shock, clearly not expecting that the person he casually comforted on the roadside would turn out to be his super VIP client. He joyfully took me to find a property according to my requirements. Seeing that I indeed made the payment smoothly, the man named Kevin insisted on treating me to a meal. You're my first client, and with this 10 million, I'll get quite a commission. I must treat you to this meal. Just as we arrived at the hotel, Kevin suddenly received a call from his company. He sheepishly told me the private room number and asked me to go up first, but when I arrived at the private room, I found someone was already inside. Even Jason was there. Seeing me, Jason abruptly stood up from his seat. Jack, why are you so persistent? You even followed me here. Frowning, I double-checked to make sure I hadn't come to the wrong place. Seeing my silence, Jason turned to the man in a suit seated at the head of the private room and said, Mr. Wilson, this is the ungrateful brother I told you about, the one who hasn't visited our parents in years, and now that he's unemployed, he wants to come back to mooch off them and even snatch the property. Mr. Wilson, isn't your dedication to philanthropy meant to provide opportunities for struggling entrepreneurs like me? Please consider that I have such a brother and invest in my project. Hearing Jason slander me to my face, I clenched my fists and spoke. Jason, don't go too far. Jason sneered coldly, sparing no effort to mock me further in his bid to win Mr. Wilson's investment. Am I wrong? How many times have you come back these years? You only return when you lose your job. Expecting mom and dad to support you. If you hadn't caused such a scene today, insisting on taking the house, would dad have cut ties with you? Who are you? Who gave you the right to talk about Jack like that? Kevin, who arrived late, was clearly out of breath from running. Sorry, bro, I gave you the wrong room number. Seeing Kevin, Jason frowned. Who are you? Do you know Jack? Kevin stood in front of me, glaring at Jason like a fighting rooster. Jack is my client. The kind who casually buys a $10 million luxury apartment without batting an eye. He's definitely not the deadbeat freeloader you're making him out to be. Kevin was still wearing his work ID around his neck. Jason, who had just been badmouthing me, looked at me in disbelief. You're not unemployed. Didn't you spend all your money on those 2 apartments? Where did you get $1 million from? I sneered. So you do know I ran out of money because I bought those 2 apartments. That's why you and your parents felt bold enough to scheme against me, transfer the property, and kick me out, and now you're using my misfortune to play the victim. Jason, I will definitely get those 2 apartments back. You and your parents had better start thinking hard about where you'll live once my properties are gone. Sir, I also advise you to investigate thoroughly before doing business with him. Don't end up being cheated like I was, Mr. Wilson's face had long lost its previous amiability. My words just now completely overturned the pitiful image Jason had portrayed to him. Mr. Wilson stood up, his tone stiff. I need to further evaluate this investment opportunity. Let's call it a day for this meal. With that, he walked out of the private room without looking back. The investment that was almost within grasp was about to slip away due to my interference. Jason didn't even bother to confront me, hastily chasing after Mr. Wilson as he rushed out. As he passed by me, he glared at me with gritted teeth. Jack, just you wait. I didn't take his threat seriously at all. Instead, shortly after I filed a lawsuit with the court, my parents received a court summons. I never expected I'd actually dare to sue them. My dad was so furious he immediately called me. You little brat, how dare you take your own father to court? The property deed has my name on it. So this house is mine. No matter how much you fuss, it's useless. Withdraw the lawsuit right now, or don't blame me for disregarding our father-son bond. I'll post what you've done in the family group chat and let everyone shame you for your unfilial behavior. On my end of the call, I rolled my eyes. If you're not afraid, then why should I withdraw the lawsuit? Go ahead and post it, since I've severed the father-son relationship with you. Those relatives have nothing to do with me anymore. After saying that, I immediately blocked them and decisively left the family group chat. The reason I could be so firm is that the new policy stipulates that the full payment investor owns the property rights. Although going to court would be troublesome, I now have both money and time to spare, so I can afford to drag it out with them. Because I needed to submit documents, I frequently visited the courthouse over the next few days. Just as I finished submitting the materials again and was about to head home from the courthouse, Kevin called. On the phone, Kevin was panting heavily, as if he was running while talking to me. Jack, it's bad. Something's happened at your place. When I rushed home, I finally understood what Kevin meant by something happened. The front door, which I had securely locked before leaving, had now been forcibly broken open, and the interior was in complete disarray. Security guards who had heard the commotion had also arrived at the scene. Standing at the entrance were none other than my parents and Jason. Kevin told me that the community security guards initially let them in because they recognized them as my parents, but then my parents turned around and brought a locksmith to forcibly break open my digital lock. They vented their anger by smashing and destroying things in my apartment. And it was only because the downstairs neighbor was alert that security was called. When my dad saw the security guards arrive, far from being intimidated, he instead pointed at the sky and cursed the earth with righteous indignation. This is my son's house, and I'll smash it however I damn well please. That ungrateful little brat actually dared to sue me. Can't a father even discipline his own child? The security guards couldn't interfere in family matters. They just wanted to get my parents and their troublemaking crew out as quickly as possible, but just as they were about to take action, my mother suddenly collapsed to the ground like a staged accident. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, none daring to approach, terrified of being framed for something. Seeing me rush back, my mother immediately got up from the ground, cursing under her breath. You finally showed up, you busybody. I raised you for over 20 years, and you dare to block me. I knew you wouldn't be honest when you went out to work. Tell me, where did the money for this luxury apartment come from? Looking at the mess in the room, I clenched my fists. You've raised me for over 20 years. Haha, have you given me a single penny since I started high school? Even my tuition was paid by my homeroom teacher out of pity for me. I'm telling you, I've already called the police. If you don't leave now, don't blame me for being ruthless. Jason, standing nearby, spat in disdain. Jack, forget whether mom and dad raised you or not, but last time, you messed up my investment. Don't you owe me an explanation? Considering you're my brother, I won't make things difficult for you. Just transfer this luxury apartment to my name, and I'll forgive you. Hearing his words, not just me, even Kevin beside me couldn't help but curse. What a shameless bastard. I waved my hand, and the security guard nearby immediately understood my intention. They didn't hesitate any longer and immediately started grabbing my parents and Jack in pairs. What are you doing? I'm not leaving. This is my son's house. How dare you kick me out? Let go of me, Jack, you unfilial son. May you die a horrible death. While struggling with the security guards, they kept cursing me non-stop. I turned my back, not bothering to look at them. Suddenly, a scream rang out behind me. Then, a security guard let out a loud ah, sensing something was wrong. When I turned to look again, my mother had hit the back of her head on the coffee table and was now lying unconscious on the floor. Several security guards panicked, fearing they might be implicated in a death. My dad and Jack were also stunned, finally stopping their commotion. Although my mom hit the back of her head and passed out on the spot, the injury wasn't serious. After being bandaged at the hospital, she quickly regained consciousness, to avoid paying. My dad dumped all of my mom's medical reports and bills on me. It's all because of you that your mom got into trouble. You must pay this money. I couldn't be bothered to haggle with him over such a trivial amount. While waiting in line to pay, I casually flipped through my mom's medical report. I didn't expect to find anything, but what I saw made my pupils dilate in shock. My mom has type AB blood, but I'm clearly blood type O. Yet in biology, AB blood type parents can't produce a child with type O blood. My mind went blank as an absurd thought exploded in my head. I had no time to worry about paying the bill, so I turned straight back to demand an explanation. As soon as I reached the hospital room door, I heard my mother scolding. "He's nothing but an ungrateful wretch. We only bought him from a trafficker because he was young back then, but what good has it done? Now he even dares to rebel." My father chimed in, "Well, it's your fault for not being able to have a child back then, forcing us to buy one from a trafficker who knew you'd get pregnant the very next year after buying him. If he hadn't already been old enough to understand, I would have thrown him out long ago. Such a waste of food all these years." I stood frozen at the hospital room door, listening to the description of my abducted childhood inside. No wonder they loved Jason more, even though we were both their sons. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. The last shred of familial affection in my heart completely extinguished. After that day, I gave the property management photos of all three of them, ensuring they were permanently blacklisted. When they couldn't enter the neighborhood and couldn't reach me, they came up with another despicable idea. They harnessed the power of the internet and started a live stream. The live stream featured not only my parents and Jason, but even my cousin's entire family. In the live stream, my mother, with gauze wrapped around her head, pitifully sobbed to the viewers, "I just wanted to see my son one last time, and he had people beat me like this. My life is so miserable." Jason wore a helpless expression. "Everyone, our family isn't here to play the victim. We're truly at our wits' end. My brother not only assaulted our parents but is even trying to seize the two properties under their names. They're elderly. This is practically a death sentence for them." The netizens in the livestream, after hearing my mom's tearful complaints and Jason's accusations of my misdeeds, were already outraged and began condemning me as worse than a beast. But that wasn't enough. Standing behind Jason, my cousin Dante held his 3-month-old son and said, "My family is struggling, and my kind-hearted aunt gave us a room to stay in temporarily. Now Jason insists on taking the house away. Isn't this forcing my family to our deaths? My poor child is still so young." This time, the anger of netizens surged even higher, and they unanimously took over my social media platforms. I knew they were doing this simply to pressure me into giving up the house, but not only was I not anxious, I secretly invested money to boost their live streams every time they went live. Just as the situation escalated and even made it to social media's trending list, I, the protagonist, finally made an appearance. Seeing me initiate the live stream, those netizens instantly flooded in, pushing the popularity of my broadcast to its peak. Faced with a screen full of curses, I ignored them and directly displayed the records of my full-payment home purchase, the footage of their illegal trespassing, and the audio recordings of their child trafficking, one by one. I didn't even say a single word throughout the entire process, yet managed to reverse the tide of comments, especially when the final recording was played. The comments section exploded. "They actually dare to buy and sell children. This is illegal, and after buying, they even want to abandon them. Are they even human?" The house was clearly bought outright by the streamer, yet that family still claims the blogger stole it. I've truly witnessed the diversity of human nature. Enough talk. I'm going to their live stream to call them out. People like this should be arrested. Jason had been keeping an eye on my movements the whole time. When he saw me present so much evidence, even including the recording of my abduction, he was completely stunned. He originally wanted to rely on public cyberbullying to force me to compromise, but now he's lifted a stone only to drop it on his own foot. He was already an unemployed person, staying at home all day, with the internet disconnected. He naturally couldn't see the online abuse, but Dante was different. Due to the online backlash, Dante's company directly fired him and blacklisted him permanently. Regarding the two properties that were taken from me, the court finally issued a verdict, and I regained ownership. My parents and Dante's family were forcibly evicted, knowing they wouldn't let it go easily. I quickly rented out both properties at a low price. True to form, my parents came knocking again, unwilling to accept defeat. But the moment they saw the tenant, a burly, intimidating muscleman, they immediately backed off. At least Jason and the others could temporarily squeeze into his girlfriend's place, giving them somewhere to stay for the time being. Dante has a family to support, and for the past few years, the entire household's living expenses have relied solely on his meager salary. Now, with a newborn child, after being kicked out of my house, he can't even afford to stay in a decent hotel. But of course, I don't feel sorry for him. Back when my parents were condemning me in the family group chat, he was the first to join in. He even joined my parents in smearing me online. The situation he's in now is exactly what he deserves, but I never expected that Dante, egged on by Jason, would actually hire thugs to block the path I had to take home. Facing the two hoodlums before me, I cautiously took a step back. Dante, what do you think you're doing? Dante, with his unkempt beard, looked utterly disheveled. Jack, you got me fired, and now you're asking what I want to do. Let me tell you, today I'm going to teach you a lesson. He casually grabbed a collapsible baton from one of the thugs behind him and stepped closer to me, clearly intending to strike first to vent his anger. Seeing that escape was no longer an option, if I were to confront them head-on, I'd just be throwing my life away. I stared fixedly at Dante as he approached, and just as he raised the baton, I raised my voice. Did Jason send you? You idiot. You don't even realize you've been tricked by him. My word idiot made Dante freeze mid-motion. What do you mean? Don't think you can buy time like this. Today, I'm definitely breaking one of your legs. Seeing how completely clueless he was, I actually stopped feeling afraid. You say you're not stupid, but think carefully. If you hit me today, losing your job would be the least of your worries. Do you really think Jason doesn't know that? From the very beginning, when he led you to slander me online, to now egging you on to teach me a lesson, do you think he's unaware of the consequences? He doesn't dare take the risk himself, so he pushed you forward. You're foolishly being used as a pawn, yet you're still smug about it. My blatant sarcasm made Dante freeze, though his face turned red with anger. He grasped the meaning behind my words. But after all these years of following Jason, their trust wasn't so fragile that it could be shattered by just a few words from me, so I directly played my trump card, evidence substantial enough to redirect Dante's hostility. After cutting ties with my parents, I knew they wouldn't let it go, so as a precaution, I hired a private detective in advance to monitor them around the clock. At the slightest sign of trouble, they would come and tell me. Originally, I just wanted to prevent problems before they arose. But I never expected to stumble upon a huge scandal by accident. The son you treasure so much is actually Jason's. My words struck like a bolt from the blue, leaving Dante frozen in place. When you're at work during the day, Jason meets with your sister-in-law every Tuesday and Thursday. I heard him say with my own ears that their son is growing up so well. To ensure Dante would believe me, I showed him the photos the private investigator had sent me right then and there. With a loud thud, the baton in Dante's hand fell to the ground. Never expecting to be wearing such a massive green hat, Dante let out a roar of helpless fury. Then he didn't even bother about me, turned around and ran back. Jason, you damn bastard, how dare you cheat on me? I'll kill you. That night, the private detective sent me another email. Inside was a video clip. In the video, Dante led a group of people straight to Jason's girlfriend's house and beat him up, even shouting through a loudspeaker, "Cousin sleeping with cousin's wife. Jason, you're a beast." Jason was beaten so badly he couldn't fight back, and the pointing fingers of the crowd around him made him hang his head in shame. My parents, meanwhile, hid at home, too afraid to come out for fear of being implicated by Jason. Jason's girlfriend never expected that not only did Jason sleep with his cousin's wife, but also fathered a child with her. In a fit of anger, she immediately broke up with him and kicked my dad and the others out of the house. Naturally, Dante wouldn't tolerate wearing such a big green hat. The next day, he forced a divorce. Left with no choice, the cousin's wife had to take her 3-month-old son and seek refuge with Jason. However, my mom resented her for seducing her son and treated her with constant hostility. Just as I was gleefully watching the family drama unfold, a welfare organization approached me. "Hello, Mr. James. We are from the Baby Come Home program. After seeing your story online, we voluntarily compared your DNA in our database and found your biological parents. They have been searching for you for the past 25 years and have finally learned of your whereabouts. Your family is currently in City A. Would you be willing to meet them?" Hearing this wonderful news, my eyes instantly welled up with tears. Perhaps this is the bond of blood. On the day of the meeting, I dressed myself up very formally, but little did I expect that my biological parents' display would leave me utterly stunned. Looking at the Bentley motorcade and the crowds of people scrambling for red envelopes on the streets, only 1 or 2 words filled my mind: damn impressive. Who would have thought that after I struck it rich, not only did I find my biological parents, but they turned out to be the CEOs of a listed company worth over $10 billion. The lost son of a billionaire CEO found after 25 years became the headline dominating the front pages of City A throughout July. Some even joked that my parents mistook a pearl for a fisheye. After all the hype to smear me, it only led me back to my biological parents and a life of luxury. In the over 20 years since I was abducted, my parents never had another child. They started from scratch and gradually grew the company bigger, all in the hope of gaining greater capability to bring me back. After I returned to my roots, they not only splurged $100 million to buy me a villa, they even fulfilled my dream of driving luxury cars with a different color every week. Just as I was basking in the joy of this unexpected windfall, the James family came looking for me again. Jason's parents somehow found out about my parents' villa. In the pouring rain, they knelt at the villa's entrance, begging to see me. "Jack, your mom and dad just want to see you. Come out and look at us. After all these years of raising you, you can't be this heartless." In the villa's living room, hearing them still shamelessly shouting at the door, my dad angrily rolled up his sleeves, ready to teach them a lesson. "People who trade children. I didn't sue them only out of respect for you. And they still dare to come here looking for trouble." I quickly grabbed my dad's arm. "Dad, leave this to me. I know how to make them suffer even more." The villa's grand door slowly opened, and seeing me emerge, the three kneeling figures on the ground immediately brightened with hope. Fearing I might get wet from the rain, even under the eaves, the butler thoughtfully held an umbrella over me, observing my current treatment and contrasting it with their own disheveled state. I clearly saw the flicker of envy and resentment in their eyes. Just as expected, the moment I stepped out, Jason's father immediately tried to move forward to grab me, but he was immediately stopped by the quick reflexes of the bodyguard. "Jack, what happened before was Jason being immature. You're the older brother, so don't hold it against him. I know you must resent us for not telling you the truth about your background. But your parents have raised you all these years and have long treated you as their own son. You can't be ungrateful." Jason's mother chimed in. That's right, Jack. Now your parents and your younger brother have nowhere to live. Just think about how well we've treated you over the years and forgive us this once. You can't be such an ungrateful wretch and forget your parents' kindness in raising you." Their words made me laugh. Kindness in raising me. Who really raised whom? You raising me or me raising you? All these years, apart from making me send money, have you ever shown me the slightest bit of concern? To be honest with you, I never lost my job at all. Hearing that I hadn't lost my job, Jason wiped the rain from his face, his tone full of accusation. "You didn't lose your job, then why?" "Because I won $500 million and wanted to come back to share the fortune with all of you." I spoke in a calm tone, as if discussing a trivial matter. Yet the three members of the James family were dumbfounded, letting out an incredulous scream. $500 million. Yes, $500 million. A cold smile played on my lips. "Originally, this money was yours too, but unfortunately, it has nothing to do with you now." Realizing they had missed out on a fortune of $500 million, the expressions on the faces of the three people in the rain were truly a sight to behold. Especially Jason's parents, who were filled with regret. Immediately knelt down again and even began slapping themselves repeatedly. "Jack, we truly know we were wrong. We really need this money now. Please, have mercy on us." Of course, I would never give them the money, but letting them kneel there wasn't a solution either. After all, I didn't want them ruining my parents' appetite. "I suggest you leave before my family's lawyer arrives. After all, child trafficking is a serious crime. How many years do you think you'll get?" The butler tactfully continued. "Young master, such cases typically carry sentences ranging from 10 to 15 years, but the top lawyers in our conglomerate have the capability to push for the maximum penalty." Upon hearing the possibility of a 15-year prison sentence, Jason's parents turned pale and stumbled backward in panic. I gave them one final warning. "If you dare show your faces in front of me again, I swear, I'll make sure you spend the rest of your lives in prison. Get the hell out of here." Fearing imprisonment, Jason's parents fled in a hurry, but Jason himself glared at me with venom in his eyes. "Jack, don't celebrate too soon. I won't let you live so comfortably." I knew Jason was a troublemaker, so I didn't dare let my guard down. Only after confirming that Jason and the others had returned to their hometown did I gradually let my guard down, to celebrate my return. And coinciding with my birthday, my parents decided to go all out. They threw a grand birthday party for me at the best hotel in City A, just as I was moved by how, after more than 20 years, my parents could still recount in vivid detail the events from when I was 2 years old. A waiter approached with his head bowed, carrying a tray of red wine. Just as I reached out to take it, the waiter suddenly flipped the tray, revealing a dagger clutched in his hand beneath it. "Jack, go to hell." Disguised as a waiter, Jason's eyes were bloodshot, his mind utterly twisted by jealousy. Thanks to my quick reflexes, Jason's first stab missed me. Seeing that I had escaped, he suddenly turned the blade and stabbed towards my father, who was closer to him. "Dad, dodge." Thud, bright red blood dripped onto the floor drop by drop. I looked at the dagger plunged into my abdomen and collapsed backward in agony. "Son," my parents, whom I shielded behind me, screamed and tried to cover my continuously bleeding wound with their hands. No one had expected the originally joyous family gathering to turn out like this. The bodyguards quickly subdued Jason, preventing him from stabbing me a second time. Seeing me lying in a pool of blood, he laughed maniacally. "Jack, since I won't have a good ending, I'll drag you down with me." Due to excessive blood loss, I no longer had the strength to speak. In the last second before passing out, my parents' heart-wrenching screams still echoed in my ears. Waking up again, I stared at the hospital ceiling, my lips curling faintly in a barely perceptible smile. Seeing me awake, my parents rushed to my bedside, fervently thanking all the gods and Buddhas for protecting me. Although Jason's knife had stabbed me, fortunately, as a medical student, I knew where it wouldn't be fatal. Plus, the bodyguards arrived in time, preventing him from getting a second chance to harm me. When Jason was mentioned, my parents' expressions turned grim. "The day you were brought to the hospital, the police took him away. I won't let this go easily. I'll make sure he rots in jail." My dad dared to say this because he had the confidence to back it up. With the efforts of the company's top lawyers, Jason was sentenced to 17 years in prison for attempted murder after recovering from my injuries. It had already been 3 months. The first thing I did after leaving the hospital was to visit Jason in prison. Now, he was wearing a prison uniform and had his hair shaved short. When he saw me, his eyes still couldn't hide the hatred. "Jack, you're really lucky to be alive. I should have stabbed you to death back then, just a little more, and you would have been buried with me." Looking at Jason, who was still completely in the dark, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Jason, oh Jason, you refuse to admit how stupid you are. Aren't you the least bit curious why you could so easily sneak into such a grand banquet disguised as a waiter?" Seeing the smile on my face, Jason froze for a moment. "What do you mean?" I looked at him, having been his brother for over 20 years. Of course I had to let him die with clarity. "I know your relentless nature too well. You never give up until you achieve your goal. Letting you run wild outside would always be an unpredictable risk. I wouldn't let my parents take that chance with me, so I simply gave you an opportunity. Don't think that just because you returned to your hometown, I actually let my guard down. From the moment you set foot in City A again, your every move has been under my watchful eye. If it weren't for me secretly letting you in, you probably wouldn't even have been able to find the hotel's front door." It wasn't that the bodyguards arrived just in time. I had already stationed them in every corner of the banquet hall, waiting for you to walk into the trap. "My dear brother, for the next 17 years, you'll have plenty of time to reflect and reform in prison." Jason stared at me in disbelief, never imagining that I had been plotting against him from the very beginning. And the reason he ended up in this situation was actually all my doing. He slammed his fists against the glass between us in utter despair. "Jack, I'll kill you, let me out." His outburst caught the attention of the prison guards, who had no choice but to cut the visit short and forcibly escort Jack back to his cell. Before being taken away, Jason kept cursing, wishing me a miserable death. I wasn't angered by his curses. Instead, I left the prison in high spirits. The one who will die a miserable death in this lifetime is him alone. And what awaits me is nothing but a bright future. As for the current situation of Jason's parents, the private investigator brought me the last piece of news. After I bought the house, they moved to the city, so the land in their hometown had long been abandoned. With Jason in prison, no one was left to support them. To survive, they became homeless in the village, living by scavenging through trash. The village bullies would deliberately pick on them, and even children would throw stones at them for fun. Hearing about their twilight years, I couldn't help but feel a pang of melancholy, yet what immediately came to mind was an old saying, "Every villain meets his match." But these, I can't be bothered with. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.